welcome Damian Karzon to the Spotlight on Software Development series. Damian is a senior software developer. He's going to be talking about a variety of topics, one of which is the benefits and challenges of working remotely as a software developer. He's also, thank you Damian, very kindly invited me into his home office. So to start off with, thank you for inviting me here, and tell me more about your background and career history to date.
Yep, thanks for having me, Nicola.
Well, you're having me. Thank you very much.
Yep. So I got into software quite early on. Straight out of high school, I was into the Bachelor of IT. And after my first year, I started working as a web developer. From there, I changed to a few different companies, still under the web development role. Eventually worked for Ardent Leisure, who were the parent company of Dreamworld, AMF, Good Life. So I did a lot of web development work for those companies. After that, mobile started to get some traction, and I was quite interested in that. So I started building mobile apps on the side.
When was this? What kind of year?
That was probably 2011, 2012.
Yeah, the reason I asked you that is quite interestingly, obviously I'm from the UK, and mobile apps were really big in like 2006, 2007. It seemed to take longer for it to happen, certainly in Brisbane. I'm not sure about Australia as a
definitely.
Whole, so.
I think mainly because it took the iPhone quite a while to actually get to Australia.
Yeah. Because it was definitely iOS and Android that was big at that particular time.
Yeah.
iOS more so. But I think you were doing Windows and Xamarin, is that right?
Yeah, so after Ardent Leisure, I moved to New Zealand and got a job as basically a Windows Phone developer. And we were the only Windows Phone development studio for a while, so we had good relationships with Microsoft and Nokia, and ended up working a lot with Disney, and then eventually got into Unity games. So worked a lot on Unity games on mobile, and then Xamarin. After that, I moved back to Brisbane and got a job as a mobile Xamarin developer at Scheduler.
Yeah.
After Scheduler, I went back to web development, and now I'm at Work 180 doing web.
Fantastic. So Work 180, I believe, has got a different philosophy and approach and an aim. Tell me a little bit more about Work 180.
Yeah, so I guess the high-level goal of Work 180 is to end workplace discrimination. That's a massive goal, and to do that, there's a couple of things that we're starting to try and do. The first one is our website's, I guess, main product is a job board where we host job ads for our employers. To get onto our site, you have to be an endorsed employer, which means you have to hit a benchmark of a minimum standard for which you're I guess for your policies to be on diversity and equality and inclusion. Yeah.
Yeah, so you go in and assess the companies and find out more.
Yeah.
For example, maternity leave.
Yeah, exactly. And all of that is listed on our website as well. So we're very transparent about what employers actually offer. Just so it's super clear up front to the job seekers what they're actually applying for. And that's kind of where the name Work 180 came about. We're looking to flip the control basically of people applying for jobs, so that the job seeker has all the information they need to know, and they're kind of in control when they apply for a job.
So from employer to employee.
Yeah, exactly.
And have more balance, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a more balanced relationship. Interestingly, my husband works at Brisbane Airport Corporation, and he's had you guys on site, assessing them. I think they made the cut, which is good.
Yeah, they've been a client for a while. I think we've done some videos with them as well. That's good.
Yes, he was talking about it. And I think you do lots of events, like for example Super Daughter Day, and tell me a bit more about
definitely.
that.
So events is a big way for us to kind of get the message out there, and Super Daughter Day is an excellent example of us pushing that gender equality. It's specifically about targeting girls getting into STEM careers, and it's had a great uptake of people.
And I think quite young girls, like age 6 or 7, and
I think it's
3 to 6 kind of age.
Yeah,
group.
Exactly. Get them young, interested into it. And I think the stat was 95% have been more likely to be interested in a career in STEM after attending Super Daughter Day. So that's pretty awesome.
Definitely, and I think the times they are changing, and there are more women, for example, in software development. From my micro type experience, but I think Work 180 could obviously tell a bigger, wider story.
Yeah, definitely, especially among our team. It was a bit of a shock for me when I started because we had so many women, especially in the tech team. I've never had that before, which was awesome.
And was that by design, or was the, for example, remote work attractive to these women?
I think it's probably a combination of what we do attracts women a lot more, as well as how flexible we work and what we offer.
Yeah, and I think that flexibility and with diversity and balance, it's not all the women doing the school runs and drop-offs and pickups. The dads are doing it as well.
Yep,
so
exactly.
I guess that remote aspect and flexibility is very helpful from that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the projects that you're working on and the technologies, what are you doing there?
So as I said before, our main product is our job board.
Yes, of course.
And that's a .NET Core web app. We use React on the front end. So it's quite a mature stack, and our team's really excited about that product.
So that's what you're working on, and
that's the majority of our day-to-day. We've also got a few other like background type services to actually run the site and pick up all the jobs and handle where applications go, manage data and analytics and that stuff.
So probably SQL Server, is it?
We use Postgres SQL.
Okay.
We're all hosted on AWS.
Okay. And in terms of the team, so how big's Work 180? How many of you? Are you just in Australia? Are you worldwide?
So the majority of us are in Australia. Mm-hmm. We have a small team in the UK because we launched there, I think 6 months ago, maybe more. So there's a mainly sales team over there trying to get people onto that site. So we actually have 2 different sites, one for Australia and one for the UK. So that's constantly growing, and most of the team is Brisbane based. A lot in Melbourne as well, and a couple Sydney and one in Adelaide.
And do you get together? I mean, obviously I'm in your home office.
Yep.
But do you get to see each other in the flesh, so to speak, very often?
Yeah, so every 6 months we do a full company offsite. We just had one last month. So we all went down the Gold Coast for a couple of days and basically met everyone for effectively the first time in person. And we just worked together with random teams and tried to solve the company's problems.
It's fabulous, and I'm sure it was good fun as well.
Oh, it was excellent.
All work and no play, etc. And so, in terms of Work 180, you're all working remotely, which is great.
Yep.
Where? And I don't think you have a head office. So what was the decision-making process? Why was that decision made?
I think that basically started out because the co-founders, co-CEOs, they were looking for flexible work and they just couldn't find it. So they kind of wanted to start promoting that sort of thing, and I guess it was just natural for that to happen once we grew.
Yeah, so it's kind of leading by example.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the most flexible type of work when everyone's remote? And I think that's also important when working remote, if the company fully supports it. I've worked at a few places where we've had some people working remote, but then also an office team. And there's a lot of little details that happen when you're working in that sort of environment. So you often have that team get together in the same office for meetings, but they sometimes talk to each other instead of the actual group.
So a bit us and them kind of thing? Or?
Sort of.
Not deliberately? But
Yeah. So there's sometimes conversations when they're on mute and not everyone's
moving,
yeah,
what are they saying? Are they
not
talking
everyone's
about
involved.
me?
But yeah, at Work 180, because everyone is remote, everyone's treated equally, which is really nice.
And it's all about equality. So
Yep.
That's the main thing there.
Yep, exactly.
And I also work remotely. I'm not a software developer though, but I know why I really like working remotely. I know the challenges as well, but as a software developer, there are going to be differences there. So what do you enjoy most about working remotely? What are the challenges that you've had?
What I enjoy most about it, I guess, is either the lack of commute that I have, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and probably, I guess, just being comfortable where I'm working. I'm the most productive in this office that I have been in any other office.
I know completely what you mean. The commute is obviously a biggie.
Yeah.
Personally, as a woman, you don't have to make yourself look corporate if you're sat in your own home office. But as well, in an office, I'd find I'd spend a lot of time chitter-chattering by the water cooler. And at home, you don't get distracted so easily. You can just totally focus.
Yeah, but that also brings up a different problem with distractions, because you are just at home and you can go do whatever.
And do you find that an issue, or?
Not personally. So this is my home office.
Yes.
And it is dedicated to work.
Yeah.
There's a few toys and stuff around, but other than that, it's yeah. Other than that, it is a work zone.
Yeah, I think you definitely need that separation between work and life if it's just closing the door.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be distracted, but also there needs to be a cut-off point where you have a life. You don't want to be working 24/7 because it's obviously not good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've written a blog about remote working and the challenges and everything. Tell me a bit more, and I can obviously reference that blog as well in the show notes if you'd like me to.
Yeah, excellent. I often have people ask me about what it is to work remotely. They ask me if I have to go into an office from time to time, or if I just go and watch TV for a day, or if I find myself working all the time.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd take all those questions and try and write up what it actually means, at least to me, to work remotely. And basically I came up with 4 problems with working remotely and how I personally overcome them. So the first one was distractions.
Yes.
And how to overcome distractions. To me, when I started, I thought that was going to be the biggest problem I had. So I did a lot of prep to get a space where I had minimal distractions. And that's why I have this dedicated office for that. Another one was isolation. So this one's often talked about by people working remotely. You don't have, I guess, contact with other people. To me, this was less of a problem, mainly because my personality is I'm quite content being by myself for a while. But also our team is quite good at this. So we have daily stand-ups on Zoom where we actually see everyone every day.
Yeah. And because you're in the valley as well, so you can hear the life going on, and even if you're not involved in it, it's not like you're stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I quite often go outside and go for walks, just to get away.
And I think you mentioned as well when I caught up with you this morning that you'd done probably about 3 meetings already, stand-ups and another meeting,
Yeah.
I think an interview for a new member of the team.
Yeah, so we're quite often on calls with each other, talking things out. We also use Slack for communication, but every now and then we just need to talk something out and text just doesn't work. So we just jump on a video call.
Because it could get miscommunicated as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you've got distractions, isolation, and what were the other 2 main challenges?
Another one is cabin fever.
Mm-hmm.
So before I moved to New Zealand, I did a bit of working remotely for them. Mm-hmm. And I actually found myself getting a bit of cabin fever. So I would just walk up and down the hallway aimlessly for a little bit, and I needed to get out and do something. That was obviously in a company that wasn't set up to be working remotely. So it was kind of a bad experience of that.
Yeah.
So when I started this time, I tried to see if I could get rid of that. But because of the way we work and how close I am to the city, I just go outside every day. I go for a walk to get coffee, go for a walk when I'm finished work.
Absolutely. And it's so lively around here, but you need to get out and have the sunshine and see people and
exactly.
And not just talk about work as well. So, and what was number 4?
So the last one is work-life balance.
Yeah.
So this one is super important. In the past, I've tended to been burnt out by a couple of jobs, just because I'm somewhat of a workaholic and I just love doing work and being there for everything. So to combat this one, I found that it's very important to break up the day. Even though you're at home, if you have something at your finish time, to actually break up the day. So for me, I go outside and go for a walk at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that basically breaks up the work day from the non-work day.
That's like your commute, so to speak.
Yeah, effectively.
It's that downtime, whether you listen to podcasts or the birds, whatever. So, yeah, definitely. Mine's reading bedtime stories with my youngest daughter. But that's kind of the cut-off point that you need.
I mean, there's a few times where I do jump on work again after that point, but most of the time that's kind of how I set my work day.
Excellent. So you've got it all set, you're all set up for remote working.
Yeah.
And if somebody who's normally worked in a corporate office as a software developer and they get the opportunity, for example, to work at Work 180, what would you recommend that they do to make that transition more easy?
I guess it's probably around figuring out which one of those issues. I mean, there's more issues than that, but I guess understanding your personality type.
So, based on your experience, if you had a new person joining Work 180 and they'd worked in a corporate office all the time and were making that transition into remote working, what would you recommend to make that transition more smooth and easy?
Yeah, so a lot of that probably comes down to personality of the person. For me, those four were the main issues that I was worried about. But for other people, they tend to thrive more in more social environments. So I guess it's kind of about balancing how much social interaction you need in your day, and if that actually is covered by working remotely.
I think that's interesting though, that people need to work out, and I guess you're saying whether somebody's an introvert or an extrovert, that an extrovert would require more interaction with people. Which
yeah, exactly.
I'd probably class myself as that, so I do have to I have to go and find some people to talk to and hang out with to get rid of that issue and then really focus on what I'm doing. But anything else that you'd particularly recommend?
It's normally one of the interview questions we ask, just to try and tease out how they will work in that sort of environment.
One might be the biggest issue, for example, distractions and and what have you. So.
But we've found most people are pretty good with that sort of environment. Us in the Brisbane team, we've got 4 developers in Brisbane. So we try and get together every now and then and just work in the same place for a day. That's part of why I have 2 desks in here.
Right.
So I sometimes have other people from the company come and work from this office for a day, and that just gives us all a bit of like social interaction, and it's quite good, especially starting out, just to have someone here while you're getting set up and going through everything.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess as well, accountability, you can tell what people have been doing by the code that they've produced as well. So you don't really need, and I'm not suggesting that you are hovering over people's shoulders, but that micromanagement isn't really required.
No. It's sometimes an issue when, because a lot of times developers, when they've got themselves into a problem, they tend to keep digging instead of raising their hand and asking for help.
Would that happen in an office anyway?
Yeah, it would.
But
it's potentially easier to spot in an office, whereas working remotely you can't quite see that. But that's kind of a problem not really related to working remotely. It's just introverts.
A developer problem. Developer problem.
Yep.
Excellent. So, in terms of going back, you talked about your university education, and I think you were working and studying at the same time, were you? Yeah,
I think it was my second year of university when I got my first job in IT.
So that must have been quite challenging, studying and working. Were you working full time, did you say?
I was working part-time, studying part-time.
Well, how long ago did you do your degree?
I graduated 2010.
2010, so 9 years ago.
Yep.
So what do you use now for continued learning and growing from a technical perspective?
So a lot of my good friends at the moment are from university, and they're also software developers. So we often talk to each other about that sort of thing. As well as that, I tend to go to meetups. There's a whole bunch of meetups in Brisbane.
Which are your favourite ones?
Not sure. There's just a wide range. I think the last one I went to was the CTO schools, which is quite different from all the other ones I go to, so that was good. But there's also like the React Brisbane or the .NET Brisbane meetups. Women Who Code is a really good one as well.
Awesome. So lots of meetups and talking to friends.
Yep.
What have you? Excellent. And what do you think, from a technical and innovation perspective, is going to be the next big thing? What's your prediction?
I'm not sure, to be honest, and that's...
What would you like it to be?
I'd like it to be something that is for the greater good.
Yeah.
When I went down to the AWS summit for Amazon Web Services, they were showing off a lot of their new AI technology, specifically around like image recognition and how that's being used in the field of medicine.
Okay.
So taking a look at like brain scans or MRIs and X-rays, and having the AI identify problems.
So you don't have to dig, so to speak.
Yeah. So instead of a doctor eyeballing all these photos,
Right, yes.
they can kind of predict if there's a problem there before it getting to a doctor.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. And you've been back in Brisbane now 2 years, 3 years?
2.5, yeah.
2.5. So what do you think? I think you were in Auckland prior to
Yep.
that and on the Gold Coast before, but what do you think about the Brisbane tech scene now and in the future?
It's great. As I said, I try and go to a heap of meetups, and you often find yourself with the same people at these different meetups, so kind of everyone knows everyone amongst the developer community in Brisbane, which is really good, and there's a good relationship with all those people around here as well.
Yeah. So you fostering those relationships and what have you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Damian, and thank you for inviting me into your home office.
That's all right. Thanks for coming.
And thank you very much.